Okay, welcome back CIS 1400. We just finished our lesson, so now's a good time to kind of go through an example problem similar to what you'll be doing in this week's assignment. The sample problem that I have picked out right here is about a sales tax report for a company, and we're going to pseudocode it, flowchart it, and code it in Python. We may break this up into separate videos just to keep things under a certain amount of time, but we'll also give you an opportunity to kind of pause the video, try it yourself, and then come back and see how yours stacks up to my interpretation of the problem. So the problem is as such. A retail company must file a monthly sales tax report listing the total sales for the month and the amount of state and county taxes collected. If I could spell state right, that would be nice. The state sales tax rate is 4% and the county sales tax rate is 2%. Design a modular program that asks the user to enter the total sales for the month. From this figure, the application should calculate and display the following: the amount of county sales tax, the amount of sales tax, state sales tax, and the total sales tax. The pseudocode should represent the sales taxes as constants, as named constants, so 2%, 0.02 for the county, and 0.04 for the state. So I'll give you a second to pause the video here if you wish, and open up a text editor of your choice, and then you can try coming up with the pseudocode for your problem as best you can. Base it off of what you've read in the book and what we've talked about, and then come back and stack it up to what you come up with against mine. Alright, so take that time, go ahead and do that real quick. Now if you're coming back, I'm going to be using a text editor called Atom. It's just a simple plain text editor that you can use kind of as an IDE as well. You can get Atom from atom.io. It's a quick, easy download. It's a nice little text editor that integrates really, really well with different version control systems like GitHub, and it allows you to kind of like complete your typing for you and things like that. So you'll see kind of the advantages as we go. Okay, so our initial problem was to create a sales tax report. We know that the state sales tax is 4% and the county sales tax rate is 2%, and we'd like to make those named constants. So the first thing I'm going to do is create these global variables, these constants that can be used anywhere in the program. So I'm going to start off with the keyword constant, and I'm going to declare it as a real number because they're decimals. And I'm going to give them a name. The name doesn't really matter as long as it's meaningful, but I am going to capitalize every single letter in the word simply to emphasize the point that it's a named constant. So I'm going to just go with county, C-O-U-N-T-Y, tax. And I'm going to set it equal to 0.02. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with the state tax. So I'm going to go constant, real, and I'm going to go state tax. Make that equal to 0.04. Okay. So once I have those named constants done, I can start getting into the modular effects of the program. Every program you write is going to have a main module. This is the abstract module where you kind of lay out the steps of the program bit by bit. So we're going to go module main. Your module should always be a lowercase letter to start with. And then we'll just indent from there, and we'll start our declaration. So we already have two variables declared. We won't need to declare them in the main module, but we can use them in the main module because they're global. But for this one, we do need to bring in at least some input for how much total sales we've had. So remember, everything's based off of total sales. So we're going to go back to that. We're going to go declarations. And you don't need to do that, but we're going to go with a real number. And that is going to be our total sales. I like to camel case. Some people like to put underscores between the words. I like the idea of camel casing where the first letter is lowercase and every next word becomes uppercase without putting a space there. You cannot put a space in between your variable names. That should be the only variable I need for this problem. And so now it's time to go through that IPO process, that input, processing, and output. We may mix some of those two things together, but for right now, we at least have to get this value in. So we're going to input total sales. And then we can start going through the project itself. So if we think back to it, we want to calculate and display the county sales tax, calculate and display the state sales tax, and then calculate and display the total sales tax in this particular problem. So those sound like, oops, wrong way, some pretty big ideas here. So why don't we make modules for all three of those? We'll call the module, say, display county tax. Now, all modules have a set of parentheses at the end, and inside these parentheses can be arguments that you will need to send, or information you would want to send to this module to do what it needs to do. So for instance, for me to calculate and display county tax, it's going to need to know how much I had in sales that month, so I'm going to pass it total sales. I'm also going to call the module, let's call it display state tax. And again, I'm going to pass it total sales for the same reason as before. I would very much like to pass that information in so I can use it to calculate the tax on the state side. And I'm going to call display total tax. I'm going to pass in total sales. Okay? And that really is the entire module. If these are going to calculate and display, then my my processing and output are kind of linked together. So I'm going to end the main module here. Right? And then it just comes into actually building these things. So now I've got the big ideas kind of planned. Now it's kind of come in with the finer details. So first thing I'm going to do is make these three modules. I'm going to go module, and we're going to display county tax. And here I have a parameter coming in, total sales. I don't have to call it total sales here, so right now I just need to know that it's going to be a real number, and I can call it something like sales if I want. So I don't have to use the word total sales the whole time. It's just sales to this module, and that's all it needs to know. And in here, since we have the sales, we may need to declare another variable, maybe for the tax that we're going to create and display. So maybe I'll have another declaration, and that's going to be a real number for the tax that this is going to collect. Oops. Oh, son of a gun. Okay. So we've got the tax that's coming in, and now it's time to actually calculate it. So my tax, we can say something like set tax equal to the sales that we're passing in. Okay, so this is the variable that we're actually using now. Total sales is an argument. This is the parameter. The parameter sales is going to catch the value of total sales. So we can take our sales now and multiply it by my county tax rate. Okay, and that'll give me the total tax that I want, and I could display it. Okay. Oh, so we go. Keep doing that. Tax. Keep forgetting to hit the space bar. Okay, there's that particular module. Not too bad. We're going to end display county tax. And then we're going to recreate that for the rest of them as well. We're going to go module, display state tax. Okay. And I'm going to pass another real number, and I'm going to call it sales. Okay. And again, I'm going to have my declarations. I'm going to have it declare a real tax. Okay. Now the reason I'm able to use the same variable name here and here is because these are local variables to the module. They don't have scopes that overlap, so the tax that's declared in this module has nothing to do with the tax that's declared in this module. They're cut completely and totally separate, so that's one of the advantages to local variables, is that you get to reuse the naming conventions. So I can do basically the exact same math. Set tax equal to sales times, in this case, the state tax is what I'd like to multiply by, and then I can display my tax. Again, spacebar. Okay. And we'll end this module. And then the last module we might want to write is the last module that we came up with, display total tax, not tax. Okay? And so let's write that. Module display total tax, and we're again going to pass in a real number of sales. We're going to make our declarations, and we're going to calculate a tax again, which is a real number. If I do that one more time, I want you guys to hit me up in the comments. Okay, so we're going to set tax equal to, and we want it to be the sum of the county tax plus the state tax multiplied by the sales. So as long as I keep my order of operations done right, I should be able to take the sales and multiply it by the sum of my county tax plus my state tax. And again, I can display my tax. Yeah, you better hit me in the comments now. I did it one more time. And we'll end the module. Display my total tax. Okay. That really ends up being all of the pseudocode you need. I have everything accounted for very plainly, very easily. I've got my constants declared. I've got my main module, which reads like an outline for the entire program. It's going to input the total sales, and then it's going to pass that information in to all three of these other modules, these subroutines that I have. And these subroutines are meant to calculate and display the taxes that they're meant to build. Okay? They each might do it in their own unique way. We'll leave it up to the actual program, the implementation, is to say what this print statement's really going to look like versus this one versus this one. But more or less, the logic is the same across all three. So that kind of wraps it up for the pseudocode portion of this. If you'd like to pause again and look for the, try the flowchart for it, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, I'm going to cut over to my draw.io program, and I am going to flowchart this up for you really quickly. So if you've done some flowcharts before, which hopefully you have, you know I like to use draw.io. I'll link it with my Google Drive or bring the drawings right to my device if I want, but I'm going to link this one to my drive. I'm going to create a new diagram. I'm going to call this my sales tax problem. Tax problem. Keep it a blank diagram, and yeah, I'll just put it in my root folder for now. Can move it around after the fact. And so here's my palette. I've got everything that I need. I'm going to collapse the general and go into the flowchart. And if I think back to what I need, I've got some global declarations to make here and my main module, and then I've got some other things going on. So nothing too crazy. So as far as my global declarations, I'm just going to put that in a process symbol and kind of hover it off to the side because it's kind of belongs to the whole program, doesn't belong in any particular module. So we're going to make these declarations. Right? And let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger for y'all. So text, 12 point, let's go to maybe 15, it looks good. Okay, so I've got my declarations. We're going to go with a constant, real number called county tax. Right? We're going to go with a constant, real number, and this is our state tax. Okay? And remember, these are going to be initialized, so let's put some equal signs in there. This is equal to, I believe the state tax was 4.04, while the county tax was equal to 0.02. Okay, so you can make those declarations right in there for yourself if you really choose. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of float that off to the side because that's kind of good for the whole program. And then it's time to start designing the rest of it, my modules and everything that I go with. So first and foremost, I'm going to go with a terminator symbol or a start stop. Doesn't make a difference. And I'm going to call it module main. Okay, this is my main module. Okay, and my main module is simply going to, let's tighten that up, bring in, if we remember, some declarations for the total sales. So there's a process there. Open that up a little bit. Actions, real, total sales. Okay. there, and I'll connect the flow line from here to here, and then we're going to input that particular value. So let me drag that over. We're going to go input total sales. And again, Draw.io does kind of a funny thing here where it likes to write the text underneath that. So we just change the position, click on the box, go to text, change the position from bottom to center, and it puts it right in there for you. And then you can resize it, do whatever you need. Let's connect some flow lines. And then this is where we're going to start calling some modules. So we're going to call all 3 of these modules that we have yet to create, but we will. Now, what we like to use is a predefined process symbol for that when we're making calls to other functions. So I'm going to bring this in, we'll open it up a little bit, and we're going to simply type call display county tax. Okay, and again, it does sort of the same thing, change from bottom to center, and we'll just throw that in there. And I'm going to connect that with a flow line as well from input to here. And then we can make this pretty quick. The rest of the way, we'll just do a couple of these down arrows, which will kind of duplicate it. And so I can click in there and I can say call state tax, display state tax. And we'll click here and say call, what do we call it over here? Display total tax. And then I'll just shorten this up a little bit, drag it up so it looks a little neater, and everything stays nice and connected. And again, once we've done all that, we can terminate our program and just say end. Okay. Again, the words and what you choose to use aren't as important as the logic. So now that we've got these, we want to create those modules over here. So I'm going to come up with another terminal symbol. And I'm going to type in the module name inside here. So this is display county tax. Okay. And in here, we're going to make declarations, just like we had before. Just a module is nothing more than just a small little program. So everything happens the same way. Declarations. And in the declarations, if you remember, we're going to declare a real number called tax. Over, drag that down for a flow line. Missed it, didn't I? Cut that, there we go. And then we're going to actually start calculating it. So we've made the declaration. If I remember, we need to, I forgot something in here, we need to pass in some arguments. So I'm going to actually click in here and say real sales. Over so it looks a little bigger. And I need to bring that sales into here as an argument. So this is going to be total sales. And that's going to go in all 3 of these. So I'll just drag those out so they're a little bit bigger. We'll make all the necessary adjustments. Okay, so let me just clean this up a little bit. Whoops, wrong button. Shimmy that over. I'm kind of a stickler, so there we go. Okay, so now we've got everything there. Okay, so we got our declaration for a real number called tax. And then there was no input to this module, it's just a process, so once the declarations are done, we can actually do the calculation. So we're going to set tax equal to the sales times my county tax. Okay. And that can come over this way, line up, flow line, here to here. And then with this one, let me undo that. Don't need that. We're not going to end it, okay? We still have to display it, but once it's ending, we're going to actually return. So here we're going to display everything. Let me open that center. Drag that over, clean it up. And then we're going to terminate it, but anytime we're creating a subroutine, a module that's being called somewhere else, what should go in here is the word return. Now later on in chapter 6, we're going to learn that return statements can have information in them as well. And that would actually make this program a little bit easier to work with, but since we don't have that info just yet, we'll save it for later. Maybe we'll come back to it. But there we go. There's our county tax. Pretty simple. And what I can do for the rest of them, since it's basically the same idea, I'm just going to simply copy, paste. Let's see if it'll let me do it. And there we go. I can drag it over. And I'm just going to change some of the words. So instead of display county tax, now it's going to display state tax, just like I want. Still the same declarations. I'm not going to multiply by county tax though, I'm going to multiply by state tax. And I'm still displaying the tax, right? And I can do it one more time for the total. And I'll just bring that down here. And we're going to display total tax. Whoops. And we're going to change this from sales times county tax, but we are going to do county tax plus the state tax. I'll close that off. Maybe make that a little bigger so it looks a little nicer. Line it all up. Nice and good. And there we are. We have our flowchart. Okay, there's a lot going on, but we've got several pieces, several small pieces, and that's kind of the whole point to this, is to try to make your programs more manageable before they blow completely out of proportion with you. If you've got a task to do, you have a module that you need to write to perform that one task. We had 3 tasks in this program: to calculate the county tax, calculate the state tax, and calculate and display the total tax. Those were 3 different distinct things that we needed to do, so we needed 3 modules to do it, and that's kind of the motto you should be going with. Every time you have something to do, one task, create one module for that task and make sure it does a really good job with it. Other than that, the flowchart, which what we have right here, and the pseudocode come together pretty easily, okay? Now when it comes to turning stuff in, you've got some options. You can just turn in this particular text file to me, and make sure when you're doing this one, you could export it as a PDF. That would be one of the easiest ways to go about it. And you can export it right to your device if you want. And what that'll do is download it, and then you have it that you can upload to Blackboard for me or whatever it may be. So it might be on a couple pages. See if you can fudge the arrangement a little bit so it looks a little neater, so it's not hanging off the page by any means like this one is here. So if I were to move that over, it would look a little nicer. But other than that, there you go. You've got your flowchart and pseudocode. In the next video, we'll come back and we will code this in Python, and we'll see how it all kind of comes together. So we'll catch you in the next video.